Well, hello. Today is another day, and it's about this Dodge Dually. And I mentioned in my trailer video, the last one I did, I was going to be making something for my truck. I tried to buy it, and when I went online to buy it, I was well aware of the time frame it was going to take to when they were going to ship it, and they were going to ship it on December 1st or 2nd. So when I reached out to the company I purchased them from, they told me they weren't sure of the vendor and that they would call them and let me know what the deal was, because on the 5th or the 6th, when I haven't received it, I was curious to what was going on. So when they reached back out to me, and they actually followed through, which I was totally impressed, and that company was actually Jegs. And I've dealt with them for many years, and I've never had an issue, but I was really shocked that the couple of times that they told me that they would call me back, they actually did. And the star of the show, Miss Puss in Boots, yeah, she ate a few minutes ago, so she's happy. But anyway, they did call me back, and then they told me that their vendor wasn't going to be shipping it until the end of this month. So they wanted me to wait another month on top of the month I already waited. And I did know about the first part of the first month waiting, which I didn't have a problem with it. But I wasn't waiting 2 months. So I told them they could keep it and give me back my money. And Jegs did make sure within a few days I got my money back. So with that frustration, I even told them I'll just make them myself. And what it is torsion bars that I'm making for my dually. And the reason why I'm doing that is because the trailer, it's just partly on hold because I am waiting for my good friend Daniel to set me up with the additional material that I need for the trailer. And he orders it through the companies that he deals with. And because of the extreme large volume that he deals in and the massive amount of money that he spends, you know, he passes that savings along to me, which I am totally grateful for. So this is only on hold for a couple of days. But nevertheless, to show you what I decided to do, I am taking these torsion bars that came from a Chevy, an older Chevy. I cleaned them up already, and I will be cutting them in half. And obviously, because of the length of my torsion bars, they will be overall somewhere around 72, 73 inches. Maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit shorter, but as I go along, I will give the measurements. So with the hind joints on this side, with the spacers, and the bushings on this side with grease fittings, which I think is really nice, I will cut these in half, and the thickness of this is pretty much the same, maybe a tiny bit less than the thickness of these pipes here. So I decided, because of these are pretty thick, it's pretty strong, it is galvanized, and this is a little bit smaller pipe, it's black and it's even a little bit thicker. And what I'm going to do is I am going to, whatever size I need, that is the difference of those lengths, I will cut them, and I will weld the black pipe to the inside of the galvanized pipe. And not just at the ends. What I'll end up doing is I will drill some holes throughout, like 1/2 inch diameter, throughout this pipe, not into the black pipe, but just the galvanized pipe. And in doing so, once it is fitted in there, then I will weld in the holes. We'll pretend that's one of them. And I will weld in around there so that this outer tube will really be connected to the inner tube and give it really great strength. That's the way I plan to handle it, because I have this material. I won't have to go out and buy any, and that is actually what I'm trying to accomplish here. Pretty much everything I got to do this, including these pieces here that came off of the same older Chevy as those bars did there. I will be using them to where this end will end up at the axle, and this does go into there once these pieces are put together. This will go in there together. I will be using this thicker bolt than that one, so obviously I'll have to make the holes a little bit bigger, but I will be incorporating those pieces as well to what I'm building. So I have this section here, and obviously this section here set up. I don't have it cut to size and obviously not welded yet, but it will be. I wanted to give you the lowdown on all the little parts that I have accumulated over the period of time, and now decided to use it and make my own torsion bars. So I'm going to save myself a lot of money. I just got to spend the time, which is fine with me. I really enjoy doing this stuff, and I'm going to take you under the truck and what I've already started to prepare. And I figured, let me show what I'm going to do there, and this way they have a better idea of how I'm designing this. So when I built this truck, or rebuilt it, did a full frame off restoration, I did a few things. And one of the things is to the frame, what you see is hemi-orange. I actually boxed it in on the inside because obviously they're not throughout the whole thing. They're only boxed in up at the front where the engine is. But that's kind of, you could probably see, maybe see the plating. Yep, and this is the factory, and this is not, obviously. And I had the frame powder coated, and there's my dual fuel filters for my larger fuel system. And this piece here is going to be a part of what I'm going to go off of. This was set up for another transmission cross member, and the reason being was as I had a transverter hooked up to my transfer case, and it only worked for the rear, and which gave me an additional highway gear. But enough of that. So I don't need it because I eliminated it. I kept breaking it because of the amount of torque and horsepower that this truck now has ever since I did a full restoration, and that's engine, transmission, the gears in the back rear. I still have to change the ones in the front to match the ones I did in the back, because I went with bigger tires and wheels, and I wanted to make sure everything was going to be the way I wanted it as far as highway, and it is. So in the meantime, I also included this sway bar, and this sway bar came off of a 3/4 ton rear, which I believe was a Dana 80 in the back. Not really sure what the size was, but I wanted to put on the rear sway bar because obviously the front has it. And in 1995, I don't think that these 1-ton dualies, as far as I know, could be wrong, came with a sway bar. So I cut the brackets off the other rear and I welded them on here. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because the torsion bar kit that you would get would basically clamp on right here and would not work for this application because of the brackets for not only the shock being incorporated in with the sway bar kit, and you can see the shock there. I didn't want to eliminate it, not for anything. So I came up with the idea of knowing that I actually saved the brackets that came off the bottom of the rear that I got with the new frame for this truck. I actually still had them, which I wasn't surprised, but I saved them and I was thrilled that I did. So in order for it to match, because obviously this rear is much bigger, and this is a Dana rear, and I cut it in half, as you'll probably be able to see, and then temporarily bolted it on so that I can have this in place. And the nuts are 5/8 fine thread, so obviously the U-bolts are 5/8 thick. That holds on my leaf springs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a flat piece of steel from the back side of this all the way, and it's going to stick out, and the total length of that will be 10 inches. And it will angle up. It'll be shaped like, an L or a hockey stick, and come up, I think 6 inches total. and which will give me 6 inches in height, and I'll have over here 3 inches in depth, where then at that point I will, because it'll be on both sides, the bracket, there'll be one on this side and one on the wheel side coming out doing the same thing. And then I'll actually take another piece of metal here at the bottom and run it across the flat and fill in the middle, because I plan on incorporating this piece here, and that's where the hind joint will come in. So this will roughly be like this, and then obviously it will be tracked right in the same area as the blocks, which are factory. This is the way this came back in 1995, those blocks on with the leaf springs, but it'll track the same. And at that point, obviously following that to the front, which the long distance of the, say, 72, 73 inches will bring me to here, to where the rubber side bushing will be mounted. But I'll have to make another bracket to come off of this one, and it'll be pretty much an L bracket. This right here is 4 inches, and it'll come out even with this. And I'm going to take it up, I believe, as high as 6 inches, somewhere around there. So it'll be L-shaped, just the main part of this, where I'll be bolting it on not only to the side of the frame that'll go through, but also here at the bottom going up. And in this area here, which is in the same line as the actual leaf springs in the rear, is where I'll make the rest of the brace to hold the bushing. And this morning I went and picked up all this hardware, the stuff that I knew I was going to need, all the smaller stuff, and this is all grade 8 stuff, fine thread, even the bolts that are going to go through here, they're also fine thread. The bolts that will go through here will be fine threads, and this measures in somewhere, the thickness of this is like 3 3/4. So not remembering what the width of my frame is, I bought 4-inch 3/8 and 4.5 and 1/2 inch. And this is probably what I'm going to use, because once the plate goes here and then this thing sticks out and through with the washers and the lock washers, I'll be able to bolt it up really nice and tight. So I'll have 2 going through on the side, which this is double framed, and then I'll definitely have 2 of the smaller ones, the short ones that I got, to go up this way. So I don't have to weld anything to the frame that's already been powder coated. And I think if you look up any of that type of work that's being done as far as any torsion bars being added, sometimes they said if you're going to race it and beat on your vehicle, it'd probably be best not only to bolt it, but also say weld it. And I don't beat on my stuff. I'm not beating on my truck. Bolting 4 bolts per side will be more than enough, especially with 1/2 inch and then 3/8 over here. And if I feel as though I need more, I can always add more. But I wanted to show you that much of it so far, because once I start actually making my pieces, I will end up showing it on a video, in the video obviously, on how this all came about. I bolted this up here temporarily so that I'd be able to fit it, and this way when I just tack welded in the pieces in place, I know that it'll be exactly where it needs to be based on the hole pattern, and that is the reason why that's bolted in right now. So with no further ado, and now that you probably can even see it over there, that one there, let me zoom in a little bit better. Yeah, that one there is all ready to do the same thing, because, you know, I got to make one for either side, and that'll be that. So I'm going to go cut me some pieces. You don't need to see that boring stuff, but giving you the measurements, if in case you wanted to do it yourself, at least you'll be able to do it yourself and make it happen. And knowing I have all the pieces, the only money I have into this so far is just the hardware, and that's the nuts and bolts. So that's a good thing. I save myself a lot of money, because if you look those up, they're pretty expensive. and mine will be just as strong, and it'll serve the purpose that I want it to serve. And until then, I'll be back. Well, it's the next day, and I completed building the structure that gets mounted to the bottom of the axle where the U-bolts come through. And as you can see, hopefully you can see, I'm going to put some light on the subject, I think. There's the part that the hind joint goes in. I have to mill out a slot here because I went to too many places to find a 9/16 diameter bolt by 6 inches long, which then I would have been able to go through this side to this side one shot. But after going to 3 different places and coming up with everything but that size, I'm like, I'm just going to come up with a different idea of putting the original bolt back in there. And that just means setting a groove here on the side so that I can actually put it in there and tighten it up. And as you can see, the rest of it, and it's pretty well cleaned up. It's ready to be painted first and then assembled. And it fits awesomely, like, and boy, it's definitely got some weight. Structure-wise, it is solid. So I started making the other one. So before I finish putting this piece in, hopefully it's not too hot for me to grab it, I would do and show what's all involved up until those points. Obviously, it took that to fall down. That's hot. Obviously, definitely hot. Nice. Yeah. I'm not too bright. I knew it was hot. I even said it was hot. Nice. But this piece here is just warm. And obviously this is kind of the cradle that goes up to the rear, which actually is going up to what's already assembled. So there will be no taking apart the U-bolts, like I expressed in the first part of my concept of what I was going to do. And as I was starting to put it together, I had to just figure out what, where, why, and how. I didn't have a definite plan. Initially, I thought that this side piece would be L-shaped, but not necessary. And I'm kind of glad, because it would actually function better. So there's the other piece that I made that was extremely hot. And this initially came attached to this hind joint, this strut, this torsion bar. So I welded the square stock after cutting it, obviously, and making it the way I wanted it, and I welded it all the way around so that it would fit. Oh, that is kind of hot. Let's see if I can get away with doing this. That's hot. I'm going to put on a glove. Yeah, I'm going to put on a glove. It's a little too hot. So that this piece would end up notched the way I want it and would be centered in there, like that. So next what I will do is I will weld this piece in, obviously, to that cross piece plate, and then weld the front in. Weld that front in, and then put the notches in on the side like I want to do to that one. And then once that part is done, then I will flip it over and put a little reinforcement piece right in here, like I did with this one. As you can see, this piece right here, flat stock going to that plate that goes to the U-shaped bracket for the hind joint. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. I'm going to weld it up. Boy, that thing is really hot. This is definitely heavy duty. And then once both of them are done, I'll finish cleaning them up nice. And then I'll just rattle can paint them black. So I'm going to go ahead and weld these in. I'm going to put you on pause. And then once all that's done, I will have them hanging up and ready to spray. And at that point, then I will take it off of pause and get it done. And then work on the next part, which is going to be the brackets for the opposite end, which would be for this end, the bushing end. And I configured hopefully something that will work with angle iron that fits that. And that's pretty thick, looks like 3/8 thick, definitely strong by 4" and by 4". And I will take pieces of that, cut it, obviously clean it up, and make it work for where I'm going to show you where I'm going to put it. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is, actually, I think I will show you that this bad boy fits and how it looks underneath. Yeah, that's a good idea. I have to move my MIG welder out of the way. And normally when I work on this truck, if I'm doing anything that pertains to underneath the truck, I usually put it on the lift. But then that would change the geometry of all this, and I cannot have that happen. So obviously I could not put it on the lift and work it. So no big deal. We'll work it on the ground. Yep. I think I can shed some light on the subject. So hopefully we have a better view. Hopefully. Yep. Yeah, here we go. So as you can see, there's plenty of thread sticking down. And it is 5/8 diameter. Plenty of thread sticking down on all that. I have my 5/8 fine thread. That's waiting. Here's the other two. Need 4. Yep. So I'm going to hopefully place the camera down. I don't think I'll be able to. Oh, yes I can. Awesome. Let's see. Hopefully it stays there. And I'm going to scoot on over and put it in place. I can take the ground down from the welder. I don't need that anymore. And keep in mind, if you weld anything, especially to newer trucks, old stuff that doesn't have any computers or any type of technology in it, you want to disconnect the grounds on the batteries. If there's 2 batteries, then obviously disconnect both grounds on the battery. If there's only one, obviously just one ground. But please don't forget that, because if you have a computer in it, whether it's an ECM, BCM, TCM, regardless, it's a good possibility you will fry that. And then you'll be really up the creek without a paddle. See that? That's up in there. I'll put 2 in, if I can keep them on my fingers. And show you what it looks like. Put one back here. One would kind of hold it, but I already got it started. See? And that's exactly how that would get mounted on. And let me tell you, that baby is solid. And this lines up obviously right with the leaf springs which will take me to another area. The hind joint goes here, and roughly 72 inches forward, which I'm going to show you what I'm going to be doing there. Okay, there's a lot of light on that now. Alrighty. So, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier in this video, but this particular setup was made for a transverter. I probably did mention it, but I'm going to go off of this piece here because it is welded to the frame nice and solid. And so this way I don't have to ruin the finish of my powder coating of Hemi Orange. I'm going to take the angle iron, run it off the flat, and then as it goes horizontal, then shoot it up vertical. And which then at that point, it will go up the side of the frame. Now, I have about 1.5 inches distance, anywhere between 1 inch and 1.5 inches distance is to where the bracket would have to start for the opposite end of the torsion bar. So once the vertical plate goes up, I'll basically make a C-channel type thing to come down off that so it's fully exposed, whether the C-channel faces towards the rear. However it is, I'll make sure that I'll be able to comfortably mount that piece on there, mount that bushing end of it. But as the piece comes up, let's see, I think it's 1/2 inch diameter bolts right through that and to the other side of this, and because this is boxed in from the factory, with 2, maybe 3, and definitely 2 right over in here, and obviously for both sides. There's the other one. And once that's set up, then I'll be able to measure the distance that I need from this point to the back axle. But that's where I plan on coming off of it to be a nice solid point. Originally I was thinking about using the body structure mounts for the cab, and even though it's pretty strong and it is welded in there, it's not riveted in, it probably would have worked. I'm not beating on my truck, but I like my new idea better, to come off this and then to come up bolted in on the side of the frame as well as on the bottom of this mount. So that's my plan. I'm going to get to it and weld up the pieces I just showed you, and then I'll tune you back in. Well, it is the next day, and I'm going to show you a little bit of what's going on with my torsion bar build. I now have this, one of the units that I built for the bottom of the leaf spring and axle assembly. It's now in my milling machine, and I have to mill a slot on both sides of this caged in bracket, so to speak, so that I can install the bolt through here. I could have, and I tried for a couple of hours. I went to a couple of different places to try to find a 9/16 diameter by 6 inches long, and it just turned into a whole wasted amount of time. I probably could have went to another place where I did get some other hardware, but that would have probably entailed about 2 to 2.5 hours of time. And I didn't want to spend any more time looking for the darn thing. It just came up with a solution to a problem, and knowing that I already had bolts that were already made for this, and I'm just going to use them. So I'm going to show you the one that's already done and now fitted for that 9/16 bolt. And I actually have it out back where I just touched up some paint because I painted it yesterday, and to give you an idea of what's going to happen afterwards. And then I'm going to put it back on the stand and just show you a simple process of milling some slots or a hole, because it has to be a decent sized hole for the head of the bolt to fit through. So this is the piece, and as you can see, hopefully I'll go on an angle, maybe the hole right there, and they're bone on either side. And as you can see, it is painted and ready to be installed. Looks pretty good considering. I know it's definitely strong enough, that's for sure. It's the whole idea. And what I'll be doing along the way is actually obviously making the pipe the length that I need and using these existing torsion bars that came off of a 72 Chevy frame. I had someone ask on Facebook, I don't know if they're following me on YouTube, but they asked why I was running such a short actual torsion bar. See, I post pictures on Instagram, and I replied back to him. I was glad that he asked, and I told him, I said, well, they're actually going to be around 72 to 73 inches long. And then he asked another question, and it had to do with if the torsion bar was going to run at the same angle as the drive shaft. It's not something I thought about, but I think based on where I'm mounting the other end on the frame where this will go, it might be, and I will be checking that out. It was a good question. I didn't have a direct answer for him, and I just said I didn't think about it, but I will be thinking about it going forward. So I have mentioned in the past, I believe, about these pipes that I'll be putting together to make the length that I need, and adding these original short. These are probably a little over 2 foot long. They might be 27 inches at most. I haven't measured them. I gotta take measure. Let's see how far off I am from end to end. From end to end, actually 25 inches. Let's see, right there, 25 inches. So 2 foot, I could probably shrink this in, but that's not the plan. But nevertheless, they will be cut in half, and I will machine them so that I could hopefully be able to sleeve them into the pipes that I'll be making, the tubes, so that works out well and be extremely strong. I did mention, I believe, that I'll be drilling holes 1/2 inch diameter through the pipe, the outer pipe, not the inner one, in various areas, so that once the inner pipe is in there, sleeved in, I'll be welding those areas up to one pipe to the other. This way it'll make it really solidly strong, and I think it'll work out just fine. This material I have, I know they probably use chromoly or something like that. I really don't care. I'm not going to be beating on my truck. I don't beat on my stuff. But I think those two together would be plenty strong enough to do what I wanted it to do. One is appearance, and the other is to make sure I got good stability on my back axle, considering the amount of horsepower and torque that I have in that truck. And in building that truck, and I built that engine, the engine has minimum of 600 horsepower, and I know for sure that, along with having 600 horsepower, I also know that it accumulates 1,200 foot-pounds of torque. It's a lot of torque, a lot of horsepower. That's all I wanted in the truck. Wasn't trying to do 1,000 horsepower or more like some of the guys do with those diesel engines. It's not for me. I want reliability, drivability, and knowing that originally that truck came with just under 200 horsepower. So from taking it, say, from 200 horse to 600 horsepower, plenty enough. That thing definitely gets up and moves out of its own way, and even with the 37-inch tires. So all said and done, I'll be extremely happy once it's all done. So I'm going to put you on the stand and show you my beautiful milling experience. And just to be a short one, I don't want to bore too many people, but I'm going to put you on the stand now and get to work. It's locked in. There's that. The light goes on. Now, I'm going to get me lined up with the hole that's obviously in the U-shaped or C-shaped, whatever you want to call it, channel. And I will eye it up the best I can, because I'm going to be making it bigger so that the head of the bolt will actually slide through as well as the nut on the other side need be, but it works out fine because I tested it on the other piece, and if I didn't touch it up with paint, I would have showed you. But tighten these up. Yeah, I'd say that's lined up pretty good. I'm going to spray it with some cutting oil before I get it started. As long as one side has the ability to put the bolt all the way through, it's really all I need. Because the other end, you have to go between the metals in order to put the nut in there and make it work. So as long as one of them works out so I can go directly through, it's good. I'll be fine with that. I'm not trying to build a masterpiece. I just want to make sure it works well and nothing breaks. Because I don't even know if you can buy ones that would have similar application to what I'm doing. The bottom of where the U-bolts get clamped to. And that's what I'm basing it off of, because I have no other place to really build off of. It has to be in that area, because everything else in between won't work because of the sway bar setup and the shock mounts. It just, there's no place to put it. So in coming up with this idea and using what I have, I think it's going to work out just fine, and it might even add more say traction to what is out there in the market of these things. Because like I did mention, the company I tried to get, which would have been a top mount, spring mount ones, they failed. They told me I was going to wait an additional month, and I wasn't having it. I'm not waiting an additional month when I already waited a month, knowing I was going to wait a month. So I knew I can make my own, and I just salvaged around everything I have, and I came up with all the parts they need. And at that point, it cost me my time, some welding rods, and some new hardware, which is cheap as far as I'm concerned. But I will tell you this, when it came to buying hardware, I found this just outstanding. I have to use that word. I didn't know exactly the diameter of the U-bolts. I knew it was bigger than ½ inch, could have been 9/16, could have been 5/8. And I also knew that it was fine thread. So I figured, okay, I'll go to one of the hardware stores where commonly everybody knows is Home Depot. Well, Home Depot doesn't have anything suited. Really no fine thread in a 5/8 diameter, nor do they have 9/16 of any length that I can come across in my area. I'm not saying Home Depot doesn't have them at all, but where I went, they didn't have them. So then I decided, hey, I'll go to Ace. I've dealt with Ace hardware before. And I knew they were on more the expensive side, but at least at that time, whatever I was going for when it came to hardware, they have it. So I went there, and this was towards there before they were just about to close. Their one fellow helped me find a 5/8 and fine thread. They did not have 9/16 in fine thread, and I was going to do one of each because I didn't really know what it was going to be. Even if you measured it, it's kind of hard to tell. So I ended up with 5/8 fine thread and a grade 8 nut. Nut only. Nothing else. No bolt, no washers, no lock washers. Just a nut. So I went up to pay for it, obviously, and it came out to, after tax, of $2.35. I said, what the heck did I do? Break a window? Are you kidding me? For this one little 5/8 nut, they wanted $2.35. I'm like, well, I bought it. I needed to find out what I had bolted to the rear of my truck. And sure enough, it ends up being 5/8 in a fine thread. Standard size, not metric. I'm like, wow, okay. So the next day, I called a company I deal with down here from time to time, Florida Nut and Bolt. But they're in Riviera Beach. So it's like a 40-minute drive one way, and then obviously the time there and then the time back. So I called them up, talked to Mr. Will, and I asked Mr. Will, how much are the 5/8 fine thread nuts that you have there? So he looked it up. He said, by the time it's said and done, it's 50 cents, and that would be after tax. 50 cents for a nut. That, to me, is a lot more reasonable and more understanding. $2.35 for one nut at Ace. They have seriously bumped their head. I understand they got to make a profit. They got overhead. But to make that kind of profit, knowing that I'm buying it actually at 45 cents, because I did go there. Actually, when did I go there? I went there Monday. Yeah. Probably Monday I went there. And, yep, Monday I went there and bought 10. I only needed 8. Actually, I only needed 7. But I bought 10. I always buy a couple extra more than I need, because maybe of another project, at least I'll have them. So I bought 10, and I asked, well, how much are they anyway? Because he just gave me a rough idea. And he said, well, they're 45 cents a piece. I'm like, geez. And then obviously tax. And down here, in this neck of the woods, it's 7 cents per dollar on tax. So it's less because it's way under $1. It's under 50 cents. But I was totally blown away. And from here day forward, unless it's extreme emergency, I will not buy any more hardware from Ace. And once again, I am not being sponsored by them or anybody else for that matter. I have to say that when I talk about different companies, to let everybody know I'm not being sponsored by anybody. So it's just my experience and my time in dealing with different companies, big companies obviously. But I always knew Ace was high, but I didn't know they were that high. Matter of fact, they were probably so high they were smoking one while they were giving me a price, or they set the price on the shelf. Like, I did not expect that at all. But being that Florida Nut and Bolt, being as far as it is, it wouldn't be worth the trip to go and just buy one nut and knowing how far I had to travel. But I didn't only just buy 10 nuts there. I also bought some other hardware that I knew I probably have but would need for this particular project, and save myself a lot of money. I spent it's probably like $48 or something like that for a bunch of hardware that I will use on this, and then obviously saving what I have in the cans that I have, a various amount and different sizes and lengths and metric and standard sizes. So there wasn't just, thinking about the trip, how much I spend to go there. It was definitely worth the while and the trip, knowing how far I would have to travel, the time spent, because if I would have went in there and bought even just as I needed, total of 8, and that means buy another 7 more nuts besides the rest of the hardware, lock nut washers, other nuts and bolts that I needed for this, I probably would have been out of there spending well over $100, $125. Who knows? I didn't do the math on it, but even if you just did 10 at $2.35, there's $23.50 when it boils down to it. Just for 10 nuts. They're crazy. So it was worth the trip because I know I didn't spend that much money in fuel, and the time was well worth it. I got to see a guy I've been dealing with since 2010. So periodically I go in there, see how he's doing, and buy what I need to get, because they do have anything and everything under the sun when it comes to that type of hardware, along with drill bits and taps. They carry a variety of stuff that have to do in that market, which is a great place to go. I like going there. I deal with the people. They're nice people, and that's that. But I couldn't believe it. Shoo! I almost fell over. They would have had to put a defibrillator on me. I'm telling you. So I'm going to show you my collection of hardware. And I've been collecting hardware forever, I'd imagine. But nevertheless, give you an idea on what I put them in. Coffee cans. My favorite coffee. I've tried other coffees, and everybody has their own taste and flavor, but mine is chock full of nuts. Yep, the Wacky Pack stickers back in the day, they'd call it chock full of nuts and bolts, and I actually have that sticker from back in the day. But here's my collection. They're 3 tall and 3 deep, except for that little row. But if I take those that are over there and put them over there along with those down there, it would be that deep. And I got some labeled metric, and then I have chopper bolts when I was building my chopper. Yeah, they were expensive. A handful of those. And I think I got them from Ace. Yeah, a handful back in 2007. I remember the date. 2007. A handful, just a handful, this handful of nuts and bolts that were either stainless, if there were anything that was chrome, but it would fit in my hand, and it was $100 worth. I almost fell over. But at that time, I did not know about Florida nut and bolts, because like I said, that was 2007, and I started going to Florida nut and bolt in 2010. If I met them sooner, believe me, I would have went there and bought them. But that's my collection, not to mention what I have over in a bin, like. I have some drawers. See, more. Got brass in that one, lots of brass fittings. More, this is actually from the smart car, the Mercedes, and more brass fittings. But in these 4 drawers is same thing, different kind of hardware, everything from like the cable clamps. I got a variety of stuff that I keep in here, more nuts and bolts, more brass fittings. So I have a nice size collection, not to mention some longer stuff in there, and then obviously in these drawers from Lowe's. You go there and you buy what you need and then some, because you save the trip the next time. So that drawer's got plenty full. This drawer's got even more. And the real big stuff, like the 3/4 inch diameter by whatever that you would probably use on road tractors, is in a 5-gallon bucket, which is not full by no means. But if you remove the copper, the aluminum, you got bigger stuff down there that occasionally I do go into. So the bucket, I'd say, is about 1/3 full of that kind of hardware, the real bigger stuff. And that's not hardware that I use. That's actually for my dually. They are the lug nuts that go to my truck. And I've had them, obviously, since 1995. And will always have them. But that's that. So for now, I'm going to put you on pause, and I'm going to clean that piece up, make sure that I could fit the bolt in there. And if not, I'll bring it back onto the machine, make it happen. And I'm going to move on to the next piece. So in the meantime, I'm going to put you on hold, and I'll be back to you. Well, I'm back, and I got some pieces cut. I got an idea on how I'm handling it. So I'll take you through the motions of what I have done, and I actually mounted the other two pieces that I showed earlier that go underneath the leaf springs. Now she's got my approval, or I got her approval. Miss Puss in Boots. Yep, kitty, Puss in Boots. She just got fed, so she's a happy little camper. Yeah, absolutely. And she sees me over here like this. She wants all the attention she can get. So how it's going to go is, I'll do hopeless. I got two pieces that you can see clamped. One to that cross member piece that I spoke of, and then off of that, another piece. You can see clamp coming out away from the frame. And that's going to go higher. I just wanted to give you an image of it. It's probably going to go up another, say 2 inches, inch and a half. Yeah, 2 inches at least. But it was easier just to mount it like that for the time being. It's got to go higher so this way I can run 2 bolts to the side. As once I get in better position, I can show you. Once this piece goes up here, higher, like I said, anywhere from 1.5 inches to 2 inches higher, then I'll be able to put a couple of bolts right through that plate, press the frame, and then, apply accordingly. And then this piece here that you can see on the bottom will probably have also 3 bolts, one on this side, one on the opposite side, and then one in the middle towards the edge, because there's tubing right here, so it's kind of in the way. So there'll be 3 on there, which between the 3 there and the couple 2 or 3 here on the side should be plenty. Awesome, solid like. So so this way, this part of it will be mounted, and what I'm going to pick up tomorrow is similar to the shackles, not so much maybe how the U-shaped pieces that I will weld to here, and it's going to go about 1 inch or so from here to where it'll end up being center. So at that point, it will be centered, because I did measure from here over to the grease fitting 2 3/4 inch over. So that leaves me about 1.25 inches here on the side. And that'll work out perfect, because the bolt will slide in from this side. Plenty of room to put the nut on there so that that bushing can be clamped into place. There we go. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. It's mounted. And that's where the hind joint will go in. And it is bolted up in there. Not that it looks like, it's part of the truck, but definitely it looks comfortable enough and definitely strong enough. And both of them are in place. I don't know why that light on the top isn't bright enough, but it gives you an idea of what's going on. But tomorrow's another day. Being today is Christmas. And Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year. But tomorrow I will buy those things that you use for the trailer to hang the leaf hangers on, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. These pieces there. Yeah, I'm going to see if they have them the diameter I need, and if so, then I'm going to snatch up 2 of them, because that's all I'll need. So until then, tomorrow will be another day. I will film that and show you the process of it welded up, and then take you through the steps on what I'm going to do about making that torsion bar that I have now longer. So until then, tomorrow, peace. Well, it is the next day, and earlier in the day, this morning, I went to the place where I got the trailer parts for the axles, leaf springs. And what I wanted to purchase was the hangers, the shackles. I wanted to purchase 2 that would work for the diameter of the end of the torsion bar, which roughly the measurement of this is 2 5/8 inches wide. But when I traveled as far as I did, and which is out in Riviera Beach, that takes anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes one way, and then obviously the time there and back. So when I got there, they were closed. Day after Christmas, understandable. That's really good, and I'm glad that they got another day off. They will be open tomorrow, but I don't want to wait until tomorrow and spend the time going out there and coming back. So what I decided to do was make my own. I could have done that yesterday, but my mind was set on already buying them and bent to shape with the hole in them. So I went through my piles of metal, and I got myself a piece of angle iron. And this particular angle iron is 3 by almost 2. 15/16, 1 15/16. So I cut 3-inch pieces out of this, and they're here, 4 of them. And then I had to cut one side of them down. I had to take 7/8 of an inch off. Only one for each piece, because I only need to make 2 of them. And that gave me the inside dimension of 2 5/8, so that this end, this bushing end, will fit in there comfortably. So now my next step is to actually weld them together, and once they're welded together, then I will be able to weld them onto the other angle iron that I showed yesterday, of how I was putting things together. And that this way then I can keep going and building the custom torsion bars for my Dodge Dually. So next I am going to weld these together nice and strong like. Hopefully they stay square and be able to make that happen. And then after that I will set them up on the frame with those other pieces. The other 4 pieces, 2 and 2, I will have to space them to go up the frame, like I showed in yesterday's video, that I have to slide it up and get it to where I want it so that I can run bolts through those plates and through the frame. So once that's actual where I need it, I'll mark it and I'll bring it over here, obviously, and I'll weld them up just like I'm going to do these pieces, and then drill the holes and put the whole thing together, and then I'll be able to get accurate measurements for the actual bars themselves. And you can't express it enough, boy, these things are heavy. 2 together really make it heavy. So I know it'll be strong enough, that is for sure. And with both these pieces of pipe welded together throughout, because like I mentioned, I'm going to drill holes through the galvanized pipe without the black one in there, and once I have a few of them drilled through there, I will weld them up to make the 2 of them solid once it's in there, and then I will cut these in half and I will fit it to them and make them the length I needed. And where the hind joints are, I'll leave probably 9 threads showing on the outside of the nut, so that this way I have adjustment room. These things are pretty long. I really don't know how long they are. Let me check one out and show you. But obviously it has a locking nut. So I can't imagine this being 1 3/4 long of thread. From the looks of it, thread 1 7/8 of thread. So by leaving 9 threads, maybe a little bit more, depending on how comfortable I feel about it. So this way there is adjustments, and everything will be hunky-dory. I'm going to stick with somewhere around 9 or maybe even 10 threads showing, and that'll give me plenty of adjustments, I believe, in the hind joint to the bar. So I'm going to screw this back together. I don't want nothing getting damaged. That'll be that for that. So, okay. I'm going to hang these over a little bit on the side so that I can put a tack weld on the side. If I tack it this way and that way, it'll hold its form. Because if you don't do something like that and you go and you start welding, what'll end up happening, the heat from the weld, if I weld on the inside first, it'll pull these in. You don't want that to happen. So one of the ways to do it is to put a weld on the side and on the other side, and that'll hold position. And at the same time, I think, those clamps are a little too wide. I'll use one of these to hold them in place. That'll work there. Move all that over. Get that stuff out of the way. Grab another clamp. Clamp that to that. Have that hanging over. Now I gotta plug it in. All right. Okay. I'm ready to rock and weld. Little zip zap, hopefully. Finally. Okay. Do a little spot in the middle. I hate when that happens. Sticking it. And make sure that I have to spread this one open a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit. See, it will pull, and I only welded a small spot right there besides the outsides. So that's the thing you got to be careful of. Let's see if that did anything. I don't think so. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Nope, nope, nope. Felt like it moved. Oh, it did move a little bit. It's too tight. Gotta go a little bit more. Yep, it's where I want her. This will be sticking out off the frame. Say my right hand is the frame. So this will be out like this, and there'll be about 1.25 inches gap from my prior measurements of where the center of the torsion bar has to end up in alignment where the other end will be with the hind joint underneath the actual rear assembly, the bolt part on. So once this goes up there, that baby's hot, even though I got gloves on. This, from what I remember, is probably going to be something like this. It'll have like a 3/8 of an inch overhang. Wow, that baby's hot. I think I'm going to grab it. Let's say these. A little bit more. Okay, that's better. So now I can take this, once everything's set up, and it'll get welded here in the center, going this way in the middle. But I think there's going to be, like I said, like a 3/8 of an inch overhang, which will give me, move this out, an inch and an eighth to an inch and a quarter gap in there, which is perfect. And knowing that it'll be like this, I'll be able to weld down both sides of this and on this, and as well as I'll be able to weld this side here as well to this plate. And that'll be perfectly strong enough, more than strong enough, that I won't have to worry about it snapping off or these two pieces coming apart, because both pieces will be welded to this angle iron right here. So that is the plan. That's what I'm going to do. But before I go any further with these two pieces I just welded up, I am going to grind this clean, like I said, and then I have to drill the holes through here for the bolt, which I believe is 9/16 to go through here in there, so that obviously I can bolt this thing up. So I will put this in the milling machine, set up the chuck to do the drilling, take a measurement of the bolt, get the right size drill bit, and drill my holes. So I'm going to clean these up first, even though they're hot. They are totally hot, hot, hot. Just like that song. Power. And get these ready to be put in position so that I can mark them next to the other plate and then bring them out here and weld them up. And then once they're welded up, then like I said, I'm going to weld these. So let's head inside with a much cooler piece of iron and go from there. Let's see. Yeah, I think that'll work. A little bit that way. Put some light on the subject so you can see what I'm working on. You can see the clamps right there. Absolutely. That's what I want to do. Yep, let's see. Can you see me? Can you see the work? Can you get rid of that dirty cardboard? Yeah, there we go. So this is definitely where I need it and want it and gotta have it, I think. See, it just took that piece down. And actually, I think I want to move this directly center of that piece. I gotta make sure this angle iron, because it's not the same on both sides of the angle. I believe this one is somewhere 4 inches, and this might be 3 5/8 to 3 3/4. So I need the 4-inch to be going outward on top. And obviously I need to bring it up high enough so that I have plenty of room to drill holes through this plate and through the frame for my mounting thing, tigamajig. Yeah. Ooh. Let me go get one and find out. I am back. Had to wear a glove. And knowing that this is hot, still hot, it's going to go like these. Actually, I have another clamp here. Clamp it, clamp, the clampets. I got the clampets. It's going to hang over. I need to do it on the back side. Yeah, I believe that, well, work. Do I have a tape measure here? I do. And as far as I remember, what was the measurement? To the center. I think to the center from this plate, the big one, to the center of what I just made would be 2 5/8. It's actually the center. And actually right now, it's real close to that. And I'm left with almost 1 3/8 of space. So I think I got to move it in a little bit, which will bring it to 1 1/4, like I was saying earlier, as far as gap between that bracket and the new bracket, to where there's plenty of room to have your fingers up there to hold the nut, to put the bolt through, and tighten everything up. So that's the plan. I'm going to take this one off, and I'm going to leave it there, because once this is bolted up, I will have to make sure I got my center marks and measurements, and then clamp this in place, and then take it down and weld it up. So for now, I'm leaving the 2 little clamps on, and hopefully I can take this down without dropping it and ruining my settings. And so far, so good. Boy, this baby's got some weight. These look like 3/8 thick angle iron. That's heavy. That's strong. Absolutely. Strong, strong, strong. I was always told the closer the ground is to where you're welding, the better off. That's true or not, I have no idea. I was told that from a welder. Who knows? Want the amperage up to 100, and I'm going to do a tack here so that when I start to weld from here down, I can remove this one so it won't be in my way. Come on now. This obviously will be going like this. Yep, that's how it was set. So I'm going to place this off to the side where it can cool down. And actually I'm going to mark, I'm going to put trans mount. I'm just going to write trans, T-R-A-N-S, mount, M-O-U-N-T. So this way I don't lose vision on all my settings. Not that there's a lot. And I got to make sure that I do the same thing, knowing that I'm coming off of the trans mount with the 4-inch piece, this 4-inch side. That means when it's on the opposite side of the truck, I'm going to pretend that the truck is going this way of the frame. This get mounted up to that, and then this piece will go like this. Yep, the two shorties come together, and this shorty has to be on the outside of that shorty in order for it to work. So, what I will do, place that there. And actually, I'd like it if I clean that up better. Okay, here's my 2-inch mark. Gonna give it a zap. Right side. All right. So that's that. Now I'm going to do is drill some holes in these, and actually I'm going to drill some holes in these too after they cool down. Yep. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pause you, and I'm going to go drill a bunch of holes because I think it's boring just doing it myself, and I don't want to bore people. I'd probably do that well enough without the extras. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and the chief in charge had a hard day, and she's taking a break. Puss in Boots, smacking that whip. See, she got up. I'm not moving fast enough, so she's coming over to attack. She wants me to get back to work quickly, so as long as I pet her, she'll be fine. Absolutely, right, Puss in Boots? Yes. But anyway, I wanted to show you the progress. I did get the holes drilled. I did get the pieces welded on there that needed to be welded on. And this gives you an idea. It's been painted. I don't know if it's dry enough yet to put on, but like I said, all the holes on both pieces, I just got done painting the other one to that. So I'm going to show you what it looks like underneath. I guess with all the holes in the area I had to put them in. I'm going to turn on this light. Yep. Well, I think you can see. Yes, you can. You can see the two holes. Yeah. And the chief in charge is coming over to inspect. And then the other 4 holes that are needed are right there. And they're on that side as well, underneath the fuel filters. So I'm fixing to put the one on. I think it might be dry enough. And I'm going to, just so you can see how it's mounted. And she's going to keep an eye on me. She's going to make sure. That's her job. Yep, definitely her job. She might get a little cranky if I don't pet her enough, because it's that time of the evening, she figures. Sometimes I think that cat knows how to tell time. But let me see if this thing is dry. No, it's still tacky. So I can't put it on. But you get the idea. And tomorrow, which will be another day, I will be able to mount them. I don't want to put them on tacky, but I will mount them. And once they're mounted, then I'm going to start making the torsion bar itself. And that'll be the final step. But as you can see, it's pretty heavy duty. It's definitely going to work. I can't wait to actually have it on there, so to have it done and over with, and get back to my trailer. Hopefully my guy will have the rest of this stuff to me, and him and I can definitely finish up the gooseneck part of it all. So at that point, then I'll get the rest of the stuff I need in order to really 100% finish it up. Do some investigating on the wood and everything else that goes with it. But definitely tomorrow that piece will be cut, extended, rods welded, all that happy stuff. And as you can see, this light does pretty good on this camera. Yep, there's the other piece that's hanging. Needs to dry. I think I need a little bit more paint on it. Those areas there. Yeah, but there it is. It'll dry overnight, just like the other one. Glad they're done and all those holes are drilled. There's 12 holes just on the frame. And when you're drilling upside down, upward, it's no fun. Yep. But until tomorrow, that's it for now. And tomorrow is another day and that of all that stuff getting finished. Can't really wait. There was the pipe. There's the pipe. But tomorrow, I'll get back with you and we'll get moving more on the dually. But until then, peace. Well, it is the next day, and I think today will be the day that this whole setup gets put on and done and finished. I took the liberty of finishing, painting, drilling, welding, all that stuff, and mounting it just moments ago. The brackets that I made. So, as you can see, they're all in place. Both sides. Let's see if I can zoom in there. Yeah, there we are. Absolutely. And I used all grade 8 bolts on the bottom, 3/8 diameter, and for the two top ones, 1/2 inch. Came out pretty good, I believe, especially for having to make something custom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my next step in actually making sure that I can make this work out, basically, with these torsion bars. I'm going to put them in place, and then I'm going to put them on the lathe and cut them in half, so I got a nice, clean cut in the center of this, so that I can merge them with the proper length piping. And like I mentioned before, I will be actually welding 2 pipes together, an inner one with an outer one. And it's going to be heavy and definitely strong. So I'm going to try to prop this camera up so that this way I could film what it is I'm doing, so that you get a good idea on this whole operation. So, let me find something where I can prop that up a little bit and get started. So this is the plan. I want to make sure that obviously it's bolted up in place. I want to make sure it still fits, which I'm sure it does. But you never know. Yeah, I will be turning around, making sure that the grease fitting itself is pointing down so I can actually get at it. That would make sense. Just tap it back out. Alright. Then, I gotta take all this stuff apart. Like so. I normally would put this kind of stuff on the lift, but it wouldn't work out that well because it needs to be sitting on all 6 tires at this point, and so when you go to measure everything, you're fitted properly. So how I check if I have the right amount of air in there, I measure the distance from the top of the tire. Let's see if I can get you in there. Let's see, there you go. From the top of the tire to the outer fender. And it's at 11 1/4, and I keep it somewhere close to 11 1/2. So I'm going to put just a tad bit more air in it, not much. Not that that's going to make a big difference. It's not, but I want to do it anyway. So this way, I know that I set it where I want it, and obviously as the tire wears, it would change, and I will obviously keep that in mind each and every time I go and check it. You know, I wanted to have a certain plane, as I would say, on the truck, a little bit in the back higher, not much, half inch to an inch, something like that. I know that sounds kind of silly, but that's how I keep it. That's how I want it. It works best for me that way. And then when I go to hook up any trailer, at this point, it'll be the gooseneck, whether it's the open trailer or the enclosed trailer, you know, it'll be fitted just right. So I have a valve right here that I have. Actually, this one here is hooked up to an air tank inside, and those are actually for my horns. And in the meantime, I put that there just in case if I needed to put air in a tire, I'd be able to do it and the truck be sufficient. I actually have a hose that I keep in that, and I usually keep a few tools with me just in case I ever need them. So I'm going to put you on the stand so that I could use two hands in making sure that I have the right amount of air in it. Alrighty. So let's get you in there so I can keep moving and get her done. Yep. See, there's a valve right here, and it works best for me. And then I watch the truck as I let a little bit of air in there. Alright. And I'll check it. Yep, it's where I want it, 11.5. That works. Now I don't, see, just needed a little bit, nothing major, and then I stick it there in that slot. And heck, if need be, if I needed to put air in there, and you know, if I have a trailer on it for some reason it leaks out a little quicker, there's my air supply. But on my gooseneck custom-made trailer, I will actually have a functioning air compressor that I used back in the day when I was framing homes in Pennsylvania. Well, as far as I know, the majority of the homes are stick-built. So, being a builder back then, I had a, obviously, and it was called, I think, an M-Glow portable compressor, Honda engine on it, obviously gasoline. Always worked well. I still have it. And I think it was 87, 88 when I got into framing homes and then build from there. So I've had it that long. And actually last night, my 40-year-old shop vac from Sears finally cut out on me. It started throwing sparks, making all kinds of noise, and obviously with the sparks flying, it jammed up and it was done. So 40 years I had it. Never let me down at any time. But hey, it was time. It was over. I have another one because it's always good to have two. So actually, and I saved one part of it. And the reason why I saved it was because it's good if you're going to do a big truck that you need to drain the antifreeze and hold, say, well, the big trucks that I deal with hold 12 gallons of antifreeze. But say I save the container, I'll wash it out, and even if I'm doing an oil change, whatever, I have other containers, but I try to find another use for it because it rolls good, works out well, and I keep it. It's not in the way, but now I'm going to set you up, grab that piece, I'm going to put it in the lathe, and cut it down. Yep, you can see me. Terrific. Let's see. Can eyeball the center. Doesn't really matter. And this is a little tight in here. I'm going to be building a second floor over in the east north corner of the building, and strong enough to hold all my metalworking equipment and get it off the floor, and then will give me more floor space. So now I need to change this. Woohoo! Wow! That was fun. Yep. Can drop. The tip came off. Hopefully it didn't break, but I kind of feeling that it did. Oh dang. It broke. I'm sure I can get another tip for it. Nope. Say that would be 3/16. And what I'm attaching this to is a heck of a lot thicker. I knew it was hollow. I thought it'd be a little bit thicker, but I guess that's okay. I'll be making it stronger than what it is. And that's the goal. Make it stronger. Make it better. Like the $6 million man. Okay, well now you got an idea on what that is. I got to cut the other one down, and once I get set up on everything, I'll show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to put you on hold and be right back. Well, Miss Kitty in charge. She's here. When she's up on there, that means she wants to be fed. Right, Kitty? Oh, see, she's paw patting me. It's like there's no food in my hand. She wants the food. Oh, she's so funny. So I have her food over here. Actually, she's on the bag of it. Oh, she cracks me up, that cat. Yep, she cracks me up. I'm telling you. Here comes Kitty. Yeah, girl. Well, now she has to let me in there. Come on, little buddy, let me in there. Yeah, that's you. All right, Kitty. Yeah, that a girl, Kitty. Eat up, Kitty. Go ahead. She knows she's on candy camera. See? She wants to eat. And I fed her, I believe, twice. At 11 minutes after 6 this morning, when I go out to the gym, she follows me in. I feed her. I come back a little after 7, and there's still food left in there. But she waits. I go in, I have my breakfast, and then I come back out, which is around 8:30, and she eats again. And what is it, 11 o'clock or something? And she wants to eat again. So she eats several times throughout the day. Not that she eats a whole lot. She's just a little cat. Still, nevertheless, she cracks me up when she does that. But let's get on to the main attraction here, which might be the cat. And as you can see, I have the pieces hanging, being now that they are cut in half. I got the hind joint end where it belongs on both sides, and then obviously the opposite end, and they're hanging. So I'm going to find a way to support them at the angle that I need them so I can get a proper measurement. And I just tried to fit, because it is a hollow pipe. I tried to see if the inner pipe would sleeve into that pipe, and it's really close. So this piece here, I'm going to, I don't know if I know it'll fit in the lathe. It's just that the lathe is close to the wall on the opposite side of this pipe where it would go in. But I'm going to see if I could sleeve this down a few inches so that I can actually slide this end into the one end and do the same thing for the other, so that it actually guides it and keeps it almost as perfect as you're going to get it. Because if I fit this inside of those torsion bars and they fit in there really nice, it'll be awesome. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I might have to move my lathe out away from the wall so that the opposite end will stick out, obviously, and give me the room to work on these things after I figure out the length. So that's going to be my next step. I'm going to figure out the length. And here she is. She's done. She's happy. She's going to check out this part of the job. Crazy cat. My little Puss in Boots. She's so funny. I love when she gives me the paw pat. Like, where you going? Get back here. Feed me. And there's a couple other strays running around. And they have come in here at time to time to help themselves, which I don't have a problem with that. I just want them to recognize who's actually feeding them so they can realize they shouldn't be afraid. I don't want to hurt them, obviously, but I put it up out of the way so that they don't help themselves and take her food away from her. Not that it matters. It's not like I'm not going to go out and get more. And she knows she's going to get fed because she is kind of a territorial cat. And that's what surprises me, that she actually allows whoever around her to come in and take it. Because even after she had her kittens, she had, I think, 4. I don't know how many, but it was before I actually got to know the cat and help the neighbor with feeding the cats, because they'd take care of the stray cats. They even took them to get fixed, just like they did her. They took her and got fixed. I guess it must have been a challenge to trap her. But she's fixed and she's chipped, and she's ready to rock and roll. But when she would go eat, she didn't want nothing to do with any other cats, including her own kittens. And you had to make a separate little bowl for her, and so that she would eat. And even though if she didn't, she was hunting something, because plenty of times she has brought me stuff. I've even watched her eat bugs. She's eaten lizards. But hey, that's her. That's her thing. But back to the situation at hand, and what I was just trying to explain is what I'm going to show you, is that the lathe being in the corner the way it is, I have possibly maybe a little more than 3 feet, 40 inches, whatever, and that's not enough, even though this is probably 2 feet from that point to that point, not much more, and I don't think that'll be enough. So we're going to see. Maybe once I'm done figuring out the length, maybe it'll work, even if I have to see if it goes beyond the 6x6 there where the insulation is. Maybe with a little luck it'll be on the one side of it and it'll allow me the space I need. And if not, I'll have to get my machine in here and lift this thing up and move it towards the door opening to accommodate what I want. I really want to make sure that those come together as best that they can. It's not like they're going to be spinning or anything like that to where I got to worry about the balance or them doing this. It's just that I want them really solid. And knowing how thick those are, only this baby is going to be more than solid. way more. But that's what I want. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to see if I could make that happen. And I'm going to grab a couple of car jacks. Alright, 6x6. And now I can make the proper adjustment. Maybe. It's a good possibility. So now I'm going to get the pipe in here and see what we're working with so that I can run the same plane and make it match up. And then I can measure it. The pipe, obviously, it's hard to see it. And I'm curious, I should have checked if the outer pipe will sleeve over those pipes. So, slide this out of there. Is this even long enough? No, it is not. I do have longer stuff. Yeah, let me see. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this piece out, and I want to see, because I didn't check, to see if this would fit in here. No, it won't. Well, I'm glad. I really didn't want it to. But, I'm line this back up, like that. That pipe is too short. Short by how much? Let's see. Well, just from here, it's short about 4 to 5 inches. And then if I wanted to go 3 inches in and 3 inches in, so add another 6 to 4, if that's what the gap is, so I'm 10 inches shy. Now this piece here is definitely long enough. Yep. Well, I don't have another piece like this one, an extra one. I have another one for the other side that's a lot longer. And it's not long enough to make 2 pieces out of it. And this galvanized piece right here is even thicker than what's on the truck right now. And actually these are really the same thickness. The black one might be a tad bit thinner. So maybe I don't have to run the rod, this pipe like I was planning, on the inside, because this has got a lot of structural strength, and knowing it is thicker than what's on there, I can make 2 sleeves, one for this side, one for the other, still drill holes in there and weld it in place so that it's solid, and do the same thing at the other side. So even if I took this pipe and I cut it in half, let's see, well, this might be almost 5 feet, maybe. Let me get a tape measure. And if I do that, and if I cut it in half, then I could use all of that and still make this even a whole lot stronger than it is already, and be able to put it in the machine and mill that, or cut that end down so it sleeves into those pipes, so I get a real nice tight fit. So I might have to approach that avenue that way, because I'm not going out and buying any more pipe. I want to use what I have and go from there, because that's pretty much what this whole project has been. The only thing I had to buy is actually the grade 8 bolts that I use to bolt those brackets up there. And the rest I already have, and that in itself is awesome. This black pipe is 54.5 inches long. So it's shy of, say, put that back on there, 5.5 inches from being 5 feet, which is not a big deal. This overall length, if I have pretty much running the same angle, I have to prop it up a little bit. one notch. Let's see. And let you know how it works out. Well, as you can see, I am back, and I'm going to show you what I did so far. So like I said, I was going to turn this around so I can see it. Alrighty. So I measured the length from one end to the other as the pieces were mounted in place. Then I took the black pipe and cut 4 equal pieces of 13.5 inches long. Then I put the smaller diameter pipe on the lathe, like I said, and I cut down the black pipe to fit in the inside of the original torsion bar pipe that came off the Chevy. And obviously I did that for both ends. And then on both ends I drilled 4 holes offsetting from each other, obviously opposite sides, so that would be 2, and then in the center opposite sides, and that would be the other 2, so it makes that 4. Because then at that point, when the pipe goes in here, like so, it gets welded at the joint where it comes together, and obviously where these 4 holes are. Get to weld all the way around to make them really solid and be, I think, incredibly strong. So that's on that side, and obviously I did the same, hopefully you could see, on this side. You can see I cut it down nice and shiny, and then it sleeves in there really nice, got a nice fit, and it'll go in this end here. And keep in mind I did grind off the coating off that end, and what I'm probably going to do first, I'm going to go to weld, which is going to be next, but I'm going to pre-fit it just to make sure it fits. I'll just do a couple of tacks on this so it stays put and it has a little bit of a bond. I am going to leave a little bit of a gap. I left room for that, so if I left, say, a 1/16 to maybe an 1/8 of a gap at this end as well as that end, the weld will go really nice in there, and then bring everything together, and then go and weld those pieces. But for now, I'm going to try to put this in there by myself, and see how she fits. Make sure it's not too long or anything like that. And if it's too short, then obviously it's easy for me to extend it because I have all that travel space. Because I made them, like I said, 13.5 inches long, and I sleeved 3 inches of that. So, that'll leave me 10.5 inches of travel inside the pipe on both sides. So I'm not concerned if it's a little too short. Not at all. Just don't want to make sure it's too long and I can't put it in. And actually, I'm going to measure the overall length, because I knew initially I was going to make them around 72, maybe 73 inches long. It's roughly how long a lot of them that are made from whatever company that makes them. And from the end to end, woo baby, I got 82 3/4 from outside to outside, which gives it even more of an angle that actually will be following the drive shaft. That was mentioned to me in a prior conversation on Facebook, I believe. So maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. I'm not really sure, but in any event, it's a great thing. So I'm going to put the bushing end up in there first. Yep. Oh, slide that out of the way. Maybe. Ah, yes. Okay, might as well take this down. Might as well. I'm going to put the grease fitting down even though it's not permanently in yet. But just as common practice so I don't forget. Yep. Alright, that side's in. Standing up out of the way. Now I'm going to put in the hind joint side next. Get this out of the way. And hopefully it's not too long, which so far it doesn't appear to be. Nope. It is not. It is beautiful. It is the right length. Guess my measurements are pretty accurate. And I like you. I like you a lot. So I'm going to weld this piece up and the stages, and once it's all welded up, I'll show you it. And then I'm going to paint it. Yes, paint it. That's that. Dang. I don't like crawling around on the concrete. Not very comfortable. Okay. This piece is down. I just knocked that down, which is fine. No worries there. Absolutely. We'll pop that sleeve off and put it over there with the other one. Yep. So I'm going to weld this up outside. I'll bring you with me. Let's see if we're in the right spot. And we are. Terrific. So I'm going to remove the coating around by the holes. That's that. Okay. And the one thing I know is that when you're going to weld anything that's got a galvanized coating on there, you definitely want to grind it off where you're going to be welding. And the other thing is, try not to breathe it in. You want to wear a mask, it's a good idea. But I took it off, and obviously I will not be breathing it in. I will do my best to prevent that from happening. That is for sure. Absolutely. For sure. Yeehaw. Smaller drill bit. Probably looks like 1/4 inch, somewhere around there. And then I jumped up to 1/2 inch. Well, doing the smaller one through there for a guide pilot type of thing worked out great. But when I tried to drill with the 1/2 inch drill after that, it became, I believe, nearly impossible. It just kept wanting to catch because you're cutting on a pipe. So I have a couple of these different diameters, and I really like them. Some people don't, but I do, because it made the drilling experience so much easier. And I can select the size of the hole that I want as I'm going, just to think that maybe if 1/2 inch isn't big enough, I can go bigger. But it made it easier to drill with this type of drill bit. I'm sure most of you guys or gals out there have a familiarity to that, but I really like it. And once again, not being sponsored. Not at all. Would be nice, but nope, not yet. Anyway, I actually ordered new work shoes, the Carolinas, and I think this might be the first time that I've ever bought them. And I'm the kind of guy that I need steel toes shoes. And these are some composite type. Could be carbon fiber. I don't remember what I read. But I guess to make it a little bit lighter. And once again, I'm not being sponsored by them. But the boots I was wearing before, kind of wore them out. And it really didn't give much arch support like I need. And even though I have them probably 4 months, 4 to 6 is about my average that they'll last before I either wear out the soles or they start separating. And I've worn everything from red wings to whatever else is out there that other guys have mentioned that they like. So I'm giving these a whirl. They have a little bit of a heel, so kind of props them up a little bit, and I'm kind of used to that type of boot originally for all the years wearing work shoes. And that seemed to not ever give me any aches in my back. And all the different types from work sneakers with steel toes in it or different design boots with steel toes, but the last pair I just got did not come in steel toes, and that kind of made me nervous. So it was another reason why I wanted to switch out, because not only that, I'm feeling too much discomfort in my lower back, and I think it has everything to do with basically the shoes you wear and being on your feet all damn day, and maybe even the mattress you use. But that's just me. I just figured I'd share that. I really like them. Carolina, so far so good. And I probably had them on now for maybe an hour, and I'm keeping them a little loose to break them in a little at a time. I don't want to end up with blisters around my ankles or anything, because they are an 8-inch tall boot wrapping type thing, and my other ones have always been lower. So, nevertheless, that is the story on that. Okay, let's see. We got it. Yep, same thing. So, I'm going to put pressure on that and weld her up. Okay, got a little disconnected there, but hopefully you got the idea that I welded everything up and actually put them in the same line, even though I can change the other end over here, the hind joint. I can pivot it any way you want, but I wanted to start it off even. And that baby is hot. So the next thing I'm going to do is finish putting the other one together, clean them up really nice, throw some paint on there, and then obviously install them. Once I have both of them completed, cleaned up, I'll show you what they look like. Obviously, I'll do that. And also, I believe I'll have them painted before I redo it, because the rest of it will be pretty much boring or the same thing I'm doing right now. So, until then, I'll get back to you shortly, because the other parts are already made. I just have to drill the holes and weld them together. Everything else is already done. So, I'll be right back. I'm back, and here they are. They all fitted, welded, and painted flat black. Now they're hanging there to dry. It says 15 minutes fast drying. That'll be nice, because I am putting them on for sure. But all they're done, been welded, grounded, smooth, pretty like, clean. And I used, as far as paint wise, here's what I used on the other parts, but they were gloss black, good old Rust-Oleum. It's pretty good stuff. But here she comes, chief in charge. I just fed her. Can't believe it. She hunted me down. Oh, there she is. She's thanking me because I fed her. And actually, she was camping out on top of there earlier. Didn't even know it. Yep. But what I'm going to do is, because it'll be almost dry, I'm going to take them and put them on, mount them, and that'll be it. That'll be the final, and that'll be it for this video. So I'm going to go snatch them up, put them on, and I'll be right back. And there she is. She had a rough day. She's hanging out on top. Puss in Boots in charge. Here she is. She's checking me out. I just love it. There you go, kitty. Job done. Thanks for hanging in here, kitty. Okay, done. I am back, and it is finished. Alrighty then. Live from who knows where, but it is finished. Bolted up, painted up, set up. Hallelujah. Yes, sir. Hallelujah. I'm sorry for the bouncing, but I wanted to make sure that I got a nice video of everything being bolted in. Zoom in a little bit better. Yeah, that's right. Where are we? There we are. Alright, awesome. Nice. Actually, I painted the bar flat black because it's the only fast drying Rust-Oleum paint I had. And I'm using what I have. I don't want to spend any more money. $40 for the hardware was more than enough. That's right. But it is finished. Hallelujah. Can't wait to try it. I'm telling you, it looks like it belongs there. Like factory-like. Bolted up nice and pretty. Yeah, check that out. Yeah. 1/2 inch on both sides. 3/8 for them going up. And I don't know what this, actually the diameter of this, actually the actual bolt itself, the diameter is 9/16. And there's the good old grease fitting. I'll slap some in there. And that's it. So in closing, it's finally done. I gotta get a back view, hopefully, from a distance. Yeah, that's right, from a distance. It looks great. I love it. So, in going forward, that ends this video. And I really do appreciate anybody who following me, who subscribes. And I really would appreciate more subscribers, obviously. I have more stuff to do. I can't wait until other things get moving along, like that project over there and the one outside. But I would appreciate if you all would like and subscribe. And if you can, tell a couple of friends if you got any. And until then, try to get something done. Thanks for watching.